All right. Hi, everybody. Good day, good evening to everybody. My name is Bart Wien, and welcome to this monthly SAMM update of the SAMM project. We're here with a couple of people from our core team, and as every month, we would like to present to you the updates that we can share. As always, we have a bit more, I would say, formal part where we would like to present these updates. And then afterwards, we also will have some time for questions and discussions. That part will not be part of the recording, but we'll start with the updates first. So let's get started. What do we have today on the agenda? First of all, we want to spend some time on community activities that we are working on, being some update about the SAMM User Day that we're planning, the questionnaire that we've been sending around and gathering feedback on, and also as a reminder, the community calls that we're organizing. This is one of the community calls. We also have one in the European time zone. More about that shortly. And then we will give you a few updates of our sprint that has ended last week, a couple of weeks ago. Since recently, we have organized ourselves in bi-monthly sprints. So every 2 months, we organize a sprint. And so we want to share with you some of the outcomes of the sprint that was finalized 3 weeks ago. I don't remember exactly, but it was around that period. And then we also have an update on scoring strategies, and in particular how you can reason about not applicable and what it means towards setting your goals. And we have Ram that's going to discuss that in more detail. So that's what we wanted to cover today. So let's dive into it. And as always, any member of the core team, don't hesitate to fill in if you wanna explain a bit more or give some more updates. Yes. So first of all, SAMM User Day. Like every year, we organize once or twice a year a user day. This time we will organize a user day in Spain on May 28th. We're still working on the practical details, putting also the program together, but we have sent out a call for papers. We already got some submissions. And so the idea for the user day is really to get together with the community to discuss your experience with OWASP SAMM, what things work well, what things don't work well, don't work so well, and how we can improve things. And so how we typically organize these user days is by inviting people or by having people sharing experiences, and so that we can discuss around these topics. So as I mentioned, call for papers has been shared some time ago, and we've already received a number of submissions there, but we can definitely we would definitely welcome more submissions. So it's a warm invitation to everybody. If you feel like sharing experiences around your use of OWASP SAMM in your organization, or if you want to attend and hear others talk about their experiences on using the model, you're very welcome to join. It will be organized as part of the global AppSec conference in Barcelona. It will be in the same week, organized as a global AppSec conference. So if you're attending the global AppSec conference, make sure to also join us for our user day. It will be a one-day event, as we always do, we're about we're setting up the program as we speak. And so for sure, if you're interested, reach out, consider submitting a proposal for a talk, and definitely consider joining us at that event. That was one element. The other one is that we have been sharing about a month ago or so our SAMM questionnaire. So every year we are gathering data as part of our benchmark initiative. And so it's meant for practitioners that are using the OWASP SAMM model. And we really want to understand from you well, how it works for you, but also what results come out of there, to be able to compare a bit the different results between different sectors, between different organizations. It's a fully anonymous questionnaire, such that, well, we are interested in seeing the high level scores that you have. But it's not the goal is not to be able to link it to an organization. So it's more like to be able to have some general data around usage and scores of OWASP SAMM. The questionnaire has been sent out. We have already had quite some good feedback around it, or some submissions. We're currently around 35, I think, approximately, but we will definitely welcome a lot more submissions, because the more data we get in, the more interesting it becomes to have a view on what is the outcome of the usage of the model. But also it allows you to give feedback on what works well, what doesn't work well. So if you're active in OWASP SAMM, we would really be using OWASP SAMM. We would really welcome you to submit to this questionnaire. The QR code here is shown on the screen. You can also find it through our website, owaspsamm.org. And so if you haven't submitted yet to the questionnaire, we would very much invite you to do so. And thanks for that already, if you have done already, or if you're planning to. And then around community calls, so we have been organizing this community call for a lot of years already. Quite recently, we also have started community calls in a more European-friendly timing, I would say, because this is always in the evening at the European time zone. Also for Asia, it's even more complicated to attend. So for that reason, we have started a community call at an European Asian time zone that is workable. So we are showing the dates here and the time zones as well. And our next European call is Aram. I think there is one this week, if I'm not mistaken. That's
yes,
correct.
yes.
Yeah,
correct.
This Friday there is one. And then you see all the dates for the upcoming community calls until summer. So
the content is going to be the same, by the way. So if you're joining this call, obviously, unless you love us that much, you don't really have to join the second call.
You can always, of course, but indeed, we will be sharing the same messages. Yes, so that's that. And feel free to choose whatever community calls fits best with your schedule. All right. Going towards the sprints and the outcomes of our previous sprint that we have finalized a couple of weeks ago. The number of the sprint might be a bit strange. The number is 2024.1. The reason is that we actually started using sprint numbering at the end of 2024, and actually our first sprint was actually 2024.1. which ended in middle of January 2025. So the next sprint is number 2025.1, and so on and so forth. But that might explain the numbering, which might look a bit strange. We wanted to share a few updates around mappings, translations, and the scoring guidance that came out of this sprint. Actually, we're managing our sprints also through GitHub, as we're managing the entire project. So everything that we do in terms of the model, in terms of issues, in terms of everything is there. Also, our sprints are there. So you can always find more details about it if you would be interested also on GitHub. But we will be sharing through these community calls the major outcomes of these sprints. So first of all, looking at the mappings, a number of mappings have been worked on in the previous sprints, quite some interesting ones. So there is BSIM 14, the mapping between OWASP SAMM and BSIM 14 has been updated. Of course, a very important one because BSIM is a model that is quite, I would say, similar in its objective. And it's always very interesting to see how the two compare and how one maps to the other. We have also created a mapping on IEC 62443 that is actually a standard around OT environments and embedded devices, IoT, OT, embedded devices. And so how can SAMM be applied in those in those contexts? We have also updated or created a mapping for CSF 2.0, one for Microsoft SDL and also threat modeling capabilities. Aram, you have been working quite a bit on these mappings. Maybe you want to share a bit more here and there, some interesting points to mention?
Oh, I wasn't prepared for that question.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I think that we've talked about all mappings or most of the mappings in the previous calls. The mapping that hasn't been really talked about is the CSF mapping. What I would like to mention there is SAMM is for application security mainly, while CSF is largely for your cybersecurity. Nonetheless, there are some topics in both standards that share sort of the same ideas. Still, CSF applies to the organization and to the cybersecurity rather than specifically to application security. And yeah, and for threat modeling capabilities, by the way, there is an OWASP Global AppSec talk by Seba, and I will share it in the chat while Bart is talking on the next slides. So Seba goes over the whole mapping one by one. I would recommend that one for learning more about threat modeling capabilities and how it maps to SAMM. So about that, just one more thing. Threat modeling is not really well, it is one stream in SAMM, but it has a lot of links to other activities, other streams in SAMM. And threat modeling capabilities framework is sort of a framework of, it's not a maturity framework, it is a capabilities framework, but it tells you everything that you should know or you should do or you could do in the context of threat modeling. And many of these capabilities have a nice mapping to here and there in the SAMM model. So definitely check out the talk by Seba, and I will post it in the chat in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, and thanks, Aram. And you can find all the information around the mappings also at the URL that is shown here. And we will continue updating the mappings in future sprints where we see fit. If you have any questions or comments around these mappings, don't hesitate to reach out. It's always very good to have these mappings. We get a lot of requests around them, because if you're using in your organization one of these models, it's always very useful and very efficient to have the mapping to be able to use OWASP SAMM in your organization to that extent. All right, going to the translations then. Since some time we have been working on translations. So, well, the core model and the toolbox and so on and so forth exist. The basic language is English, or the starting language is English, and we try to translate to different languages as well. So French has already been there for quite some time now, since I think May last year, if I remember correctly. We have been working on other languages, and happy to say that Italian has progressed very well. The bulk of the translation work has been done, and we're getting ready to test it. So that's actually can become available quite soon, I would say. And we're also working on a Russian translation going forward. And Nariman in the call, also part of the core team, is also working on that together with some other people. So that's also ongoing. I can also share that we're also working on Spanish translations. We're trying to bootstrap the Japanese translations, and also German translation is being worked on. So all translations are being done through crowding. If you would be interested in supporting translations or starting a translation for a language that you can support that has not been active yet, don't hesitate to reach out. It's all a community effort. The goal is to get the model as widely spread as possible around the world, around the globe. So if you can help out in supporting translations, please reach out to the team, to me, to the team, and we can discuss it further. So that's also ongoing, and you will hear more information about it soon. And then another topic around scoring and not applicable. I think, Aram, you want to say a few more words around this one, right?
Yes. I also saw a question in the chat. So the CSF mapping is, it's considered as finalized, but there has not been, so it's a mapping that I've created, and unfortunately the core team is a team of volunteers, and we haven't had time to sort of double check that. So feedback is definitely welcome. The mapping is not really written on the website, but if you click on the link with all the mappings, you can find it in the Excel sheet. Regarding the scoring guidance, I would call this as sort of still a beta concept. We might still refine this moving forward, but there has been always for many years so far the question, what do we do with things that are not applicable for us or not as applicable for us? Now, the core team perspective is that everything is applicable. It might not be applicable today, or it might not be as relevant today, but it might become relevant tomorrow. And you should give yourself a 0 score. So you're not, I know teams who've given themselves full credit, so the full score 3.0, because it's not applicable. You're free to do that because SAMM is an open source model. You can do whatever you want with it. However, if you want to use it by the vision that we have, the core team has, is you should give yourself a 0 credit. Now that sounds horrible because this thing is not applicable to you and you're going to pull down your scores to a lower result. And this is why we are coming up with this idea of relative scoring. And there are 2 different metrics that we would like to introduce. One of them is called percent to target, and the other one is called progress to date. So percent to target is about measuring where you are in relative to your target, and your target should almost never be a full 3.0 score. Your target should be a score that represents an acceptable level of risk. You don't want to overshoot because that means you're going to spend more money on security, and eventually if you are at a level of risk that is acceptable, that's where you stop. And progress to date is another metric that measures your speed of improvement. So in the next slides, I'm going to present some more details about these scores. So first of all, I'm going to show you some definitions because they are going to be used in the next for these 2 metrics. And then I'll talk very briefly about tool support. Yeah. Yes. So quickly, some definitions because we're going to use them in the formulas in the next slides to present you these metrics. Baseline score, this is the set of SAMM scores. And remember, 90 questions, 90 scores, and then you can average it out per stream, practice, and business function. Baseline score is your first assessment, the very first assessment that you do, and you come up with a score. That is your baseline score. The current score, so let's say that happens in the beginning of 2022. You did that. You went a year further, or let's say it's now. You did another assessment, and that's your current score. And then your target score is where you want to get. This is the score that represents your acceptable level of risk. With that in mind, we can move to the next slide. The first metric is what we call percent to target. And percent to target metric is pretty simple, although there's a lot of stuff on this slide, but it's pretty simple. It's about percentage to your target score, where it is important that if you're overshooting your target, you still have 100% to target. So if you look at this table, we have the first column is the activity. So these are all secure build, the two streams. I forgot the names, build process and dependencies, I guess. The current scores per each activity are, let's look at the first row. The score for formalized build process is 0.75, which means that you have, for at least half of the applications, you have a formalized build process. And the target is we want to have a formalized build process for all applications. So your target is 1, your gap is 0.25, which means, well, even if you don't look at the gap, you clearly see that you're 75% to target. And then you go for each score, you come up with a percent to target score, and that's it. And then you can use any sort of averaging. We haven't come up with a concrete suggestion for averaging these things out. You can either average the percent to target and come up with a score for the stream. The stream, the practice, and going on to the business function. Or you can take the sum of the gap and divide it by the sum of the target scores. So as you can see here, eventually you want to get where your target is, and the most right column represents your percent to target metric. If you have questions, by the way, we can come back to that at the very end. And obviously,
maybe interesting to repeat here, Ram, that indeed your target here is always around 1 or 0.75, and not always the 3 as you already stated.
Yes.
So your target here, you're not aiming for 3s all over the place. You're aiming for 1s or 0.75 in this case, and it will depend on your own organization and risk appetite.
Exactly. And what is very, very cool, and I forgot, and a good point, Bart. So the gray ones, where you have 100%, these are those not applicable. So your current score is 0, but your target score is also 0. So you actually get 100% there, which is a way to deal with these not applicables or not relevance, whatever you want to call them.
Yep.
So this is one metric.
Okay.
I would suggest to wait with the questions to the very end. The second metric is progress to date, which measures how far you have advanced. And here you will also bring in your baseline score. So the baseline score, again, let's look at the first row. We have 0.25 was your original baseline score. Your current score is 0.75, which means, and your target score is 1. So you have a percent to target, it's 75% to target. And your progress to date is 66%. You could also report this, obviously, as a metric of showing how teams are progressing to their target score. You could introduce a quarterly reports to the board, for instance, and this would make sense for the board, because 1.92, an average score for SAMM, doesn't mean much, at least for most people. And again, if you're overshooting, your scores are rounded down to 100%. So you cannot get more than 100% for anything. These are the two metrics. I don't know what is on the next slide, to be honest. Yeah, tool support. This is not supported by the Excel toolbox. Contributions are obviously welcome. I've heard some people asking for, instead of the roadmap sheet where you have Q1, like 4 steps of improvements, people said, like, maybe this is a nice thing to have there as well. Definitely. I'm not sure. I don't think I think somebody was also asking whether that's on our agenda. I don't think that's on our agenda, and that's not on the sprint planning at the moment. There's a tool, OpenSAMM, which is now an OWASP open source tool, and it does support one of the 2 metrics, the percent to target. And I've also added the link here. So Open SAMM is, by the way, an OWASP project since a couple of weeks.
All right.
I think
thanks.
That's all I want to say.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Adam. And I suggest that we take the questions after we stop the recording, and we can discuss further around this if people want to discuss. Let's see what we still have on our message to share. Actually, this is about it. Well, as always, we welcome any questions or feedback that you would have. We can spend some more time after we stop the recording to discuss whatever questions or feedback you might have. As a reminder, we have different communication channels that we use. So we have Slack, where we have Slack channel that can be used to ask questions, to discuss matters around OWASP SAMM. And we have, of course, the meetup where we announce our meetings, our community calls. We have a mailing list that you can sign up for, and we share content through YouTube, where we have our own channel to share our content. And I think that kind of concludes the updates that we wanted to share with you for this month.